I've started recording the session, and I'll formally begin with the today's webinar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Trade Development Authority of Pakistan, for helping this High Commission to make this possible, organizing it and inviting the concerned representative from Pakistan safety equipment and safety wear market. And I am very grateful to His Excellency Dr. Mazhar Javed Sahab for joining us today. From while His Excellency is on a public visit, and he is joining us from National Highway. So thank you so much, Dr. Sahab. Dr. Sahab will give us the welcome remarks. He will formally open it. The sequence of the webinar. The webinar is on the safety wear and safety equipment products being manufactured in Pakistan, and to inform them about the South African markets. The sequence of the webinar would be His Excellency Dr. Mazhar Javed Sahab would formally open the session, give a welcome address. Thereafter, I'll give a presentation on. Ali Umar Tipu Sahab will give a presentation on the safety wear and safety equipment market structure in Pakistan. Following him, I'll give a presentation on the market structure in South Africa. And then we will have our guest speaker for today, Ali Sheikh Sahab from Safety Wear. He will, who is an importer and a distributor in the local market of the product. He will give his input and will also answer your question. We are also very grateful in today's session. We are joined by a representative of National Regulator for Compulsory Specification. It is a national body in South Africa जो कि देखती है जिनकी certification exporters के लिए required होती है. They also gave me a contact details of a consultant that I will also share during the webinar. और बाद में भी आप सबको email कर दूंगी. So thank you so much. और now I request Dr. Sahab, His Excellency Dr. Mazhar Javed, formally open the session and welcome the participants, please. Sir.
Thank you so much, Humaira, and a very warm salam alaikum, good noon to all the participants. As we know, this webinar is a part of a series of webinars in which we are wanting to bring sector-specific businessmen, those interested in Pakistan and those interested in South Africa, with a view to increasing the potential and facilitating the business procedures for the exporters and importers, both of them. This is a part of the larger Pakistan government's initiative that we call Engage Africa, which is basically designed and expected to increase Pakistan's economic interaction with the African countries, of which South Africa is obviously a very important country. While I welcome you, I have my particular
You are mute, sir. You are mute.
So, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Right. Was I audible before? No?
Sir, we lost you in the middle, sir. But you
right. So let me start from where I lost. As I explained, this entire webinar is a part of a series of our webinars, which aims to bring together sector-specific exporters in Pakistan and South Africa, and those in the entire business community which is related to a particular sector. And the main objective is to facilitate their business by increasing the know-how on the procedures, on the technical specifications required. And this is, I think, the 6th of such seminar. We will continue with these seminars. This sector, which is the safety equipment, this seminar is particularly important for this sector because it has specific technical laid-down criterion which are required to be fulfilled before something can be exported to South Africa. This series is a part of our larger Government of Pakistan's initiative the Engage Africa, which aims to increase our economic potential with African countries, of which South Africa is very important, so that the entire potential can be unlocked and unleashed. I'm particularly grateful to the South African National Regulatory Body for Compulsory Specifications for giving us their very valued input, because they are the ones who set the standards, and they are the ones who are in the best position to tell the potential exporters, the prospective exporters in other countries, how to go about. So their own inputs will be very valued, and I'm sure very helpful for the Pakistani exporters. I'm also very grateful to Pakistan TDAP and the representatives of business in the two countries on this particular sector for their active participation. So now with these words, I look forward to hearing more from the commercial office, Ms. Humaira, in her presentation, and also being educated on the technical specifications which are required for goods, safety goods to be imported to South Africa. So with these words, I welcome you all once again, and my appreciation for the commercial wing for organizing this series of very useful, helpful webinars, which gives practical tips to the two sides. Thank you so much, Humaira. Now I'm on the listening mode.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would request Ali Umar from TDAP, Ali Umar Tipu Sahab, for his presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, first of all, let me extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished speakers from South Africa. I would say that I'm deeply smeared and drenched in gratitude for providing us the opportunity to organize this seminar, which would apprise our exporters about the market structure and the tariff requirements, as well as the certification requirements that are needed to tap the untapped potential of South African safety equipment market. Thank you so much. Now I will share my screen and I will present my presentation. So my presentation is regarding safety equipment, exploring the market dynamics. And those who don't know me, I am Ali Matipu, was Assistant Director from the Engineering and Minerals Divisions and the Product Officer for Safety Equipment and Safety Wear from Pakistan. So regarding the presentation outline, first of all, I will tell you about the introduction, then the types of safety equipments, that what are the types that have been majorly produced in Pakistan, then trade statistics, especially with relating to South Africa, then what is the competitiveness of the sector, then what has been the government facilitation to the sector, as it is an important webinar in the series, because under the government facilitation, especially to the South African region and all the accredited nations that are related to the South Africa. Then what are the potential markets, then company profile and conclusion. So first of all, safety equipments are the broadest categories of the safety equipments that encompass cloths, helmets, shoes, goggles, or any type of wearing equipment that is required to protect different laborers and the workers who are working in the different sectors of the, maybe the fire safety equipment sector or the industrial sector, and even the personal protective equipment sector. And the equipment is designed to reduce risk of all several injuries caused by heat, chemical, physical, metal, electricity, and gases related to the different sectors. And this industry has got a huge potential as the countries are beginning to implement safety laws, and in this view, it would be a very important session. So what are the types of safety equipment? There are many categories of the safety equipment. For example, first of all, there is a personal protective equipment, which encompass all types of gloves, sanitary requirements, and the breathing apparatus and different things that are related to the personal protective equipment category of the safety equipment. Then the height safety equipment and the traffic safety equipment are both related to the kinds of industrial safety equipment category. And the most important and the most nascent of it is the fire safety equipment or the firefighting equipment. Now, the trade statistics, as we could see globally, there are more exports that relate to the gloves, mittens, and mitts that are again the category of personal protective equipment. And then from the industrial safety equipment, we have safety headgear, spectacles, breathing apparatus, again related to the safety equipment of the related to personal protective equipment. And then there are surgical gloves that again relate to the personal protective equipment. And then there are some fire safety trucks and other fire sprinkler systems that relate to the fire safety equipment. As far as the country-wise analysis, as you are well aware, by talking about the main rivalry of Pakistan, India, of course, has the major share of the safety equipment towards the whole world market, and its exports are approximately more than 3.1 millions. And at the second list is Pakistan. Its exports are around 1.1 million, and then at the end there is Bangladesh, which has approximately 0.4 million dollars of assets related to the safety equipment sector. And as far as South Africa is concerned, which is our main market, which is being targeted by the safety equipment sector of Pakistan, the exports of Pakistan towards South Africa are negligible. There should be, and these are approximately around $11,122. And as far as the competitiveness of the sector is concerned, there are some issues related to it. For example, there is a cost structure. Raw materials are not readily available around Pakistan. And then there was coronavirus pandemic with its third or fourth wave going on, and the death toll, which is approximately rising. Then regarding the productivity of the sector provides greater returns, although the cost is much higher, because due to the product diversification and the more value addition, it has a very vast potential that could actually help Pakistan to achieve a greater export performance in the sector. Then there's a time and delivery performance. There are some customs regulations, for example, the setting time of containers at the Pakistan, different ports of Pakistan. Then there is lengthy documentation procedures. These are some challenges would have to do better in these regards to make our sector more competitive. And as far as the government facilitation to the sector, duty drawback schemes which relate to the refund of custom duties, taxes, and fees paid on imported items, these have some kind of been relaxed. Then there are statutory regulatory ordinances relating to the import-export policy orders, because there are certain items which have been prohibited, and restrictions have been made regarding their imports and even exports. So government has some kind of facilitated to the sector by allowing some imports from this category, which are highly efficiency, diversified, and more value-added products. Then there are State Bank of Pakistan regulations according to the chapter 12 and 13 of State Bank of Pakistan Foreign Exchange Manual. These have been confirmed and have been actually relaxed by the government. And as far as the potential markets, as you see, United States of America backs the highest potential, with exports rising up to approximately $272,000. And then there is South Africa, which has very untapped potential and amounting to 11,122. And then there is Europe, approximately, with the consortium of countries backing the potential of 5,98,000. And then we have potential markets in Ukraine and Russia, Central Asian republics, East Asia, Middle East. And these are the company profiles, the profiles of those companies which are exporting in all of the categories. For example, the personal protective equipment, for example, the protective masks and breathing equipments and other related things. There are fire safety equipments, for example, Haseen Habib Corporation, which backs the highest amount of fire safety equipment potential from Pakistan, and some other profiles are also there. And now regarding the true potential of personal protective equipment and other sectors, The reason for incorporation and putting much emphasis on the personal protective equipment is because traversing a date of June 2020, Pakistan actually received an export order amounting to rupees $100 million that related to personal protective equipment. Now, apart from the personal protective equipment, there are more potentials in other sectors as well. For example, fire safety, firefighting equipment, and due to the surge of construction companies and different rehabilitation schemes going on, there would be a need of industrial safety equipment, for example, in the markets of Afghanistan and other European countries, which are and other South African countries, and other potential areas, as I've said earlier, related to the all types of safety equipment sectors. And that's all from my side now.
Thank you, sir, Ali Umar Sahab, for your presentation. During the session, अगर किसी participant को लगता है we have we are using these the medium of language as English. Why? Because we have a participation from the national regulator of South Africa. But अगर किसी participant को पाकिस्तान साइड से, because ये सेशन हमने पाकिस्तानी एक्सपोर्टर्स की फैसिलिटेशन के लिए बनाया है. अली शेख साहब भी बहुत अच्छी उर्दू बोल लेते हैं, तो आप जो गेस्ट स्पीकर है जो आपको ये स्पेसिफिकेशंस और रिक्वायरमेंट्स के बारे में बताएंगे, आप उर्दू बिल्कुल आप हमें बीच में मना करें और आप कहें कि आपको ये जो इन्फॉर्मेशन उर्दू में चाहिए वो आप उर्दू में करें. इसमें झिझक की कोई वो नहीं है, बात नहीं है. हम आपकी फैमिली है और आप हमें बिल्कुल बीच में रोके ऐसा कहें कि आपको जो बात समझ में नहीं आती है. थैंक यू. After this, I'll share my presentation. I'll begin with my presentation. So wait for a moment. So my presentation is on the same subject, and it's the same as Ali rightly pointed out, और जैसे Ali ने कहा कि safety risks, health और safety risks at work, वो तमाम वो उस किस्म के कपड़े या वो आलात, चाहे उसमें चश्मे हो, गोगल्स, हेड गियर्स हो, सर पे कोई चीज़ है, हाथों में पहनने वाला, जिस्म पे ओढ़ने वाला, ऑल सॉर्ट ऑफ इक्विपमेंट्स जो कि प्रोटेक्शन विच इज़ मेंट टू प्रोटेक्ट ह्यूमन बॉडी ड्यूरिंग एट वर्क, उसको हम सेफ्टी इक्विपमेंट के सेफ्टी वेयर और सेफ्टी इक्विपमेंट की कैटेगरी में लेते हैं. Now my presentation is very short and I'll directly talk about the data in terms of trade and then the duties, the events जो कि इस सिलसिले में साउथ अफ्रीका में होते हैं. Okay, so okay, मैंने यहाँ पर because there are a number of categories, जो मैंने HS codes यहाँ पर लिए हुए हैं वो gloves है और फिर उसमें कुछ कपड़े हैं, जूते, फुटवेयर भी है, और फिर उसके बाद हेड गियर है, और उसके बाद ब्रीदिंग अप्लायंसेस है, गैस मास्क और जो स्पेक्टिकल्स, ग्लासेस और वो है. तो इन्हीं के सर से लेकर पाँव तक आई हैव टेकन एक प्रोडक्ट और ये एक कमोडिटी के जिसके ऊपर मैं आपको बता सकूं कि पाकिस्तान साउथ अफ्रीका की इंपोर्ट कितनी है और पाकिस्तान की एक्सपोर्ट टू साउथ अफ्रीका कितनी है और हमारा शेयर कितना है. तो जो ग्लव्स है अगर आप उसमें देखेंगे तो हमारा ये डेटा $US इन मिलियन है. तो साउथ अफ्रीका की 2020 में तकरीबन 31.5 मिलियन है और हमारा एक्सपोर्ट इस कैटेगरी में आप देख सकते हैं कि 1 मिलियन से तो बहुत ही कम, कोई 10,000 20,000 कुछ इस किसी कैटेगरी में हम फॉल करते हैं. फिर उसके बाद ये जो सेफ्टी वेयर है उसमें भी इतना साउथ अफ्रीका का इंपोर्ट आप देखें 520 मिलियन के करीब आता है, और हमारा एक्सपोर्ट जो है वो वही 10-12 हज़ार से ज़्यादा नहीं है। आप लाख 1 लाख या फिर उस तरह से आप कर ले। फिर उसके बाद हमारे पास आ जाते हैं कि ये देखिए, लाइफ जैकेट में भी हमारी कोई एक्सपोर्ट नहीं है। फुटवेयर में भी हमारा जो सेफ्टी फुटवेयर है उससे भी रिलेटेड हमारी कोई एक्सपोर्ट नहीं है। हालांकि इन कैटेगरीज में जो साउथ अफ्रीकन इंपोर्ट है वो काफ़ी हाई है, 169.92 यानी कि 170 मिलियन आप कर ले, जो कि एक बहुत ही कंसिडरेबल इंपोर्ट है। इसके बाद आप देखें कि हेड गियर में पाकिस्तान की एक्सपोर्ट 0.02 मिलियन, कितना हो गया ये। और फिर उसके बाद है पाकिस्तान की एक्सपोर्ट ओवरऑल इस कैटेगरी में कम है। जो हम अपने पार्टिसिपेंट से जो पाकिस्तान से हैं वो हमें बताएंगे कि वो ये किस वजह से कम है। और फिर उसके बाद है साउथ अफ्रीकन इंपोर्ट इन दिस कैटेगरी 39 मिलियन के करीब है। तो हमारी इंपोर्ट जो हमारा मार्केट कंट्रीब्यूशन है इस कैटेगरी में हेड गियर में वो बहुत ही कम है। अब आप आते हैं, अच्छा उसके बाद आप नीचे लाइफ जैकेट की कैटेगरी में आ जाए। लाइफ जैकेट की कैटेगरी में भी हमारा एक्सपोर्ट ओवरऑल 2.69 मिलियन है, और साउथ अफ्रीकन इंपोर्ट इज नॉट दैट गुड इन दैट। ग्लासेस की कैटेगरी में अगर आप आ जाए, हम जब ड्यूटीज को देखेंगे तो बाकी सारे सेक्शन में हमारे पास ड्यूटीज है, 20 से 30% की ड्यूटीज आती है बिसाइड वीएटी, लेकिन ग्लासेस पे 0% है। और उसमें भी जो हमारी एक्सपोर्ट है टू साउथ अफ्रीका वो बहुत ही कम है, 0.30, और उनकी इंपोर्ट ओवरऑल 17 और ये 21 मिलियन, यानी कि आप कर ले 17 और 22 मिलियन के करीब। सो दैट इज, आई एम जस्ट कोटिंग फिगर्स फ्रॉम 2020। But duties, VAT on all imports in South Africa is 15%. और अब मैं आपको बताती हूँ कि जिन जिन कैटेगरीज को हमने देखा, ग्लव्स पे देखे 10% है। नाउ इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, जनरल इज MFN, हम MFN की कैटेगरी में फॉल करते हैं। देन दे हैव एन FTA विद EU के साथ है। देन EFTA है इनका, ये अलग 4 ममालिक उसमें आते हैं स्कैंडिनेविया के। और फिर उसके बाद आता है सैडिक रीजन, जो कि इनका अफ्रीकन रीजन है। ये वाहिद रीजन है जिसमें 0% है ओवरऑल। और मर्कोसोर, दैट सदर्न अमेरिकन ग्रुप। नाउ हमारे देयर वाज अ लेटर दैट वी रिसीव्ड जिसमें एक एसोसिएशन क्लेम्ड अबाउट पाकिस्तान का, इन पाकिस्तान सॉरी साउथ अफ्रीका इंडिया PTA और समथिंग। आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट माय जो हमारे एक्सपोर्टर्स है कि देयर इज नो सच अरेंजमेंट इन द साउथ अफ्रीकन गवर्नमेंट। और ये रूमर्स है, ये बात उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट डेफिनेटली भेजी है, लेकिन यहाँ पर अभी उस पर कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा है। आप मर्कोसोर के साथ उनकी अरेंजमेंट देखें कि जो MFN पे है वो मर्कोसोर पे है। सो यू नो at the beginning whatever arrangement that they did in 2002 with EU, वो that is the only one। और उनका सिर्फ सैडिक रीजन में ही है। सैडिक में इनकी 16 मुल्क तकरीबन करके आते हैं, 16 or 17 कंट्रीज इन इट। और फिर उनके अपना ये साकू रीजन आता है जिसमें 0 है, जो जिसको एक कस्टम यूनियन मार्केट के लिए, द ओल्डेस्ट कस्टम यूनियन, उसके अलावा किसी के साथ फेवरेबल नहीं है। तो अब आप ये देखें कि आर्टिकल्स ऑफ अपेरल जो सेफ्टी वेयर से रिलेटेड है 20%, बाकी सबके साथ 0-0। तो वी वुड बी कंपीटिंग ऑन दिस 20%। सर्जिकल ग्लव्स 20%, मेड पार्टिकल या अगेन प्रोटेक्टिव वेयर 25%। फिर उसके बाद लाइफ जैकेट 30%। ये फुटवेयर, सेफ्टी फुटवेयर से ये सारा 30% है। फिर उसके बाद हेड गियर में भी 30%। हेड गियर बाय फिशरमैन या फिर जो माइनर्स यूज करते हैं वो 25%। और फिर उसके बाद लाइफ जैकेट्स पे 30%, लाइफ जैकेट्स एंड लाइफ बेल्ट्स ऑफ ऑल टाइप ऑफ टेक्सटाइल मटेरियल 20%। ब्रीदिंग अप्लायंसेस पे 0 है ओवरऑल। फिर देखिए स्पेक्टिकल गॉगल्स पे भी 0 है और सनग्लासेस पे भी 0 है। तो दिस इज द कैटेगरी जिसपे ओवरऑल 0 है। अगर आप इन ऊपर वाले हैं, the upper categories they are a little protected. Now competitors in this sector, अब मैंने उन सारे टैरिफ लाइंस के कंपेटिटर्स नहीं लिए हैं, मैंने ग्लव्स के करके कंपेटिटर लिए हैं, जिसमें मलेशिया है पहले नंबर पे, मलेशिया, चाइना एंड थाईलैंड है इंपोर्ट एज एन टर्म ऑफ एक्सपोर्टर्स टू साउथ अफ्रीका। देन इन प्रोटेक्टिव वेयर चाइना, थाईलैंड, मलेशिया। ये देखें चाइना, हांगकांग, वियतनाम। फुटवेयर में चाइना, वियतनाम, इटली। हेडगियर में चाइना, बांग्लादेश, वियतनाम। हेडगियर अगेन चाइना, इटली, USA। लाइफ जैकेट चाइना, थाईलैंड, UK। ब्रीदिंग अप्लायंसेस चाइना, USA, जर्मनी। चाइना, इटली, USA। ना अब हम देखते हैं, अब हम ये इससे हमें पता चलता है चाइना इज ऑफ कोर्स देयर बिगेस्ट बायलैटरल पार्टनर, ट्रेडिंग पार्टनर बोथ इन इम्पोर्ट एंड इन एक्सपोर्ट्स। और चाइना MFN पे compete करता है। इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट टू नोट कि चाइना के साथ इनका ऐसा कोई जीरो ड्यूटी, फेवरेबल मार्केट, इस तरह की ऐसा कोई नहीं है। दे compete ऑन MFN ड्यूटी, जनरल ड्यूटी जो हमने बाकी देखी हुई 20-30-25% पे बाकी सबके साथ। और ये जो जर्मनी है और इटली है, ये वो है कि जो 0% पे जिनको वो 0 मिला हुआ है, दे आर नॉट द वन दैट आर कम्पीटिंग ऑन ड्यूटी। बट सी वियतनाम, हांगकांग, थाईलैंड, जो कि इनके वन ऑफ इन डिफरेंट सेक्टर्स टॉप 3 सप्लायर्स में से हैं, दे आर ऑल कम्पीटिंग ऑन दिस रेगुलेट ऑन दोस MFN ड्यूटीज। Now, regulator इनकी certification के लिए जो body responsible है, that is National Regulator for Compulsory Specification. Today we have a representative, and if there are questions, Ali Sheikh Sahab will be talking about the different kind of certifications needed for these different safety wear and equipments. Or if there are any questions to be asked from NRCS, feel free to ask them from NRCS. This is one AFCOB, Africa Conformity Bridge Private Limited. This is a consultancy firm जो कि मेरे साथ जिसकी information share की गई कि to help with the certification with the NRCS or to enter the South African market in safety wear and equipment. Related events जिसमें पाकिस्तान भी participate करता था, अब तो ये virtual हो गए हैं इंशाल्लाह। Next year, hopefully things will go live. We'll again start participating in it. TDAP does participate. AOSH Expo होता है इनका इन 31 मई से 2 जून अगले साल इन जोबर्ग, and Securex South Africa, ये एक ही। और फिर उसके बाद ये Securex South Africa में पाकिस्तानी, आई एम श्योर जो आज पार्टिसिपेंट्स बैठे हुए डू मेंशन जिन्होंने कभी इवेंट्स में पार्टिसिपेट किया हुआ हो, पाकिस्तान डज पार्टिसिपेट। विद दिस आई एंड माय प्रेजेंटेशन, and now I will request Ali Sheikh Sahab, who is our chief speaker for the event, and to please share his experiences and also his knowledge on certification in these safety wear and equipment and the challenges especially in this sector. Ali Sheikh Sahab, I can see Ali Sheikh Sahab, I think. Ali Sheikh Sahab.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी सर, if you are
वालेकुम सलाम सर, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सर। सर अगर आप कंफर्टेबल है तो काइंडली अपना कैमरा ऑन करेंगे, ओनली इफ यू आर कंफर्टेबल, अदरवाइज हमें आपका। ओके, थैंक यू अली शेख साहब। हम आपसे चाहेंगे सर, जो हमने अभी प्रेजेंटेशन दिया, उमर ने भी दी, मैंने भी दी, के ऑन द सेफ्टी वेयर एंड इक्विपमेंट हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स के साथ, और स्पेशली ऑन द सर्टिफिकेशन रिलेटेड ग्लव्स में, हेड गियर में, स्पेक्टिकल्स में, वेयर में कौन सी सर्टिफिकेट्स चाहिए होती है, और जो चैलेंजेस हैं मार्केट में, अगर आप हमें उनके बारे में बता सके, और इफ देयर आर एनी अदर इशू दैट यू वुड लाइक टू टॉक अबाउट with regard to the sector, then please sir.
देखें जी, यहाँ पे साउथ अफ्रीका इज नॉट अ इजी मार्केट। अगर पाकिस्तान से हमारे जितने भी भाई यहाँ पे आते हैं और वो पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं यहाँ पे ओश एग्जीबिशन पे, आई एम हियर ऑलमोस्ट 14 years नाउ, सो आई एम वेरी बिगेस्ट इन द ग्लव साइड। सो अभी हमें जो बिगेस्ट चैलेंज यहाँ पे फील होते हैं वो इंपोर्ट की तरफ से है, यहाँ का कस्टम जो है और उसके जो सर्टिफिकेशन है, वी आर फेसिंग अ लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स। लेकिन जो ग्लव्स से रिलेटेड चीजें हैं, वी डोंट नीड एनी सर्टिफिकेट फॉर द ग्लव्स, ओनली वी नीड अ CE मार्क्ड, सो मोस्ट ऑफ टाइम। सो अभी जब आप कैटेगरीज में जाती हैं, आपने ग्लव्स पे 10% ड्यूटी मेंशन की, विच इज अराउंड ग्लव्स यू हैव टू पे 20% ड्यूटी ऑन इट, नॉट 10%। एंड और इसकी जो बॉडी प्रोटेक्शन है, जिसमें हमारे एप्रन्स आते हैं, हमारे योक्स हैं, हमारी वेल्डिंग जैकेट्स हैं, उसमें हम लोग 30% ड्यूटी जो है वो पे करते हैं। और इसके अलावा जो आप मेंशन कर रही हैं सेफ्टी शूज, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान से वाई इज नॉट इम्पोर्ट अ लॉट इन साउथ अफ्रीका, the reason behind is that first of all is the price is completely out from Pakistan, और secondly South Africa is very strict regarding that footwear में अगर आपके पास सर्टिफिकेट नहीं है, you cannot import in South Africa. So that's why is the NRCS is belong to SABS, okay. सो NRCS के सर्टिफिकेट के बगैर आप ना डस्ट मास्क इंपोर्ट कर सकते हैं और ना आप कोई भी किसी किस्म के भी आप लेदर प्रोडक्ट्स जो है ये जो फुटवेयर में आप इंपोर्ट नहीं कर सकते. That's why China is very strong. China and India is very strong in that footwear side. So we mostly import that item from China. First of all is the quality is not issued from China. और दूसरा ये जो आप कह रहे हो spectacles पे 0% duty है और spectacles also big and cheaper in China. And then is a nitrile gloves and another type of glove which is we can call is disposable gloves, which we import mostly from Malaysia because Malaysia is a very good quality and the cheaper. अगर आप लोगों को big brand is Brandberry is a big brand, so mostly that brand we import from the Malaysia. So इसके अलावा और भी आपकी लिस्ट में कोई आइटम्स हैं तो आप लोग मुझसे पूछ सकते हैं. What we facing in South Africa is a lot of delay from Pakistan to here. First of all, the shipping charges is very higher. Secondly, the transit time is so higher. And in South Africa, its market is a very difficult market. The people want, if they place order today, they want delivery today or maximum by tomorrow. They can't wait so long. So अभी हमारे लिए जो biggest challenge पाकिस्तान से आ रहे हैं एक तो shipping की बहुत बड़ी problems हैं और अगर हमें containers मिल भी जाए तो यहाँ पे आने के लिए normally is no direct vessel from Pakistan to here. So now the vessel is mostly coming from Pakistan to Salalah or Mandra, and then is going to Colombo, and then Colombo, and then Durban, and then Durban to Johannesburg. Is a very lengthy procedure. So हमें import के लिए almost 2 months जो है वो required होते हैं. उसके बाद फिर यहाँ पे भी जो custom के challenges हैं, उसमें अगर custom हमें release दे दे, तो जब हम container को बाहर delivery के लिए लेके आते हैं, then border police is stop. There's so many issues in the import side. और आपको और भी अगर किसी को कोई क्वेश्चन अगर आप मुझसे जानना है तो I can share that information.
Thank you, sir. मैं एक thank you so much for pointing out me on gloves. जो मेरा पहला the one that I mentioned on surgical gloves, South Africa custom schedule जो है वो 20% ही कहता है. That you are right about. लेकिन जो gloves, mittens and mitts of vulcanized rubber excluding surgical goods, surgical gloves, उस पे वो 10%. अगर काइंडली आप हमें इस पे गाइड कर दें.
उस पे आप सही कह रही हैं 10% है. We talking about products coming from Pakistan which is a chrome leather, split leather. हाँ उस पे 20% है और ये जो हम वेल्डिंग के लिए एप्रन और जैकेट्स वगैरह जो यूज करते हैं उस पे हम लोग 30% ड्यूटी पे करते हैं.
The wear has 30%. The wear has 30%.
Yeah, 30%. Yeah. और दूसरा ये बाज आइटम्स पे ड्यूटी यहाँ पे ज्यादा इसलिए भी रखी गई है कि साउथ अफ्रीका को इकोनॉमी को चलाने के लिए दे मैन्युफैक्चर लोकल, स्पेशली दैट क्वांटिटी सूट्स ओवरऑल व्हिच वी कॉल. सो उसके लिए क्या 42% तकरीबन ड्यूटी है. 42% व्हाई इज सो हायर बिकॉज पीपल कैन नॉट इंपोर्ट फ्रॉम एनी कंट्री. So they bring the material and they manufacture here. So we mostly import that raw material from China or sometimes in Pakistan, polycotton. So we people got a factory here, so we try to give them the material and they manufacture here for us.
Sir, there is this one question. There is one clarification from NRCS representative. वो कहते हैं कि NRCS is a separate entity. They're independent from SAPS and they report to Department of Industry, Trade, Industry and Competition, जो कि is a counterpart agency, which is a counterpart of Ministry of Commerce in Pakistan. Sir, what एक साहब ने पूछा है शुजात अली ने, what about fire hydrants, fire hose cabinet, fire extinguishers? उस पे क्या है sir? Duties and also about the certification. Do we also need certification from NRCS on that?
No, we don't need the NRCS duty. NRCS, what is the NRCS basically? Let me explain you now. The NRCS is belong to South Africa Bureau Standard, SABS. NRCS जो है SABS के नीचे काम करता है और ये जो NRCS है ये इसके लिए आपको जो fire extinguisher है, you don't need to require that one any certification. So the most important certification which you require from the footwear, you cannot import any footwear without certification. So many Pakistani people had experience here in South Africa. When they import without certification, they stop that container and they never get the release. And after 2 or 3 months, they do the auction that container. So basically, they lose their money.
ठीक है सर. मुझे बताइएगा about fire extinguisher, fire hydrants.
If you allow, may I ask something from Mr. Ali Sheikh, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
अच्छा सर, ये आपने बताया कि फायर हाइड्रेंट फायर हो
उमर प्लीज अपने आप को अनम्यूट कर दीजिए।
जी सर कुछ कंट्रीज में, खासतौर पर यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में, जो हमारे फायर सेफ्टी इक्विपमेंट के एक्सपोर्टर्स हैं, कोई खास मतलब मसाइल हैं जो मैं पूछना चाह रहा हूँ यहाँ पे हैं। अब उधर सर्टिफिकेशन रिक्वायरमेंट्स में दो टाइप के सर्टिफिकेशन हैं, कोई अंडर राइटर लेबोरेटरी सर्टिफिकेशन है और दूसरा सर EN यूरोपियन स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन सर्टिफिकेशन रिक्वायरमेंट। तो इस टाइप के कोई सर्टिफिकेशन रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं आपके पास, मतलब जो साउथ अफ्रीका ऑफर करता हो? या
देखिए जी, यहाँ पे साउथ अफ्रीका में फायर एक्सटेंशन का आई डोंट हैव टू मच एक्सपीरियंस बिकॉज वी बाइंग लोकल, वी नेवर इंपोर्ट बिकॉज इट्स नॉट अ वेरी बिग डिमांड. We I don't have experience about that. If you're talking about the PPE, my main business is the PPE, personal protective equipment. So that I can share you the all information. So दूसरा जो ग्लव्स है, ग्लव्स पे यहाँ पे दो कैटेगरीज है. एक जो आप बोल रहे हो EU EN certification is required. Any products come with the EN stamp, you have to get that certification from Pakistan. So वो हम लोग हर किस्म के सर्टिफिकेट्स उनको देते हैं, but बाज़ mining company they not accept that EU enough, that certification. Then they need a lab report which is called test report. So test report, South Africa market is a price conscious market. It's not a quality conscious market. When the people is price conscious, then you have to pay too much money for the test report. So most of customer, 90% customer accepted that EU certificate, CE marked. So some companies, like a big companies, they not accepted that one. Then we have to go that channel to go to get that certification, which you call that test report.
थैंक यू सर.
You're welcome.
Just
Any question?
जी, anyone in the audience? Floor is open.
प्लीज अगर कोई एक्सपोर्टर्स में सवाल पूछना चाहे तो प्लीज.
अपने आप को इंट्रोड्यूस कराइएगा, अपने कंपनी के बारे में बताइएगा और फिर अली शेख साहब से जिसे भी आपने सवाल पूछना है पूछिएगा प्लीज. सर किसी ने फायर ट्रक्स और एम्बुलेंसेस के बारे में पूछा है. सर किसी ने ऑडियंस, अली शेख साहब, किसी ने ऑडियंस में पूछा है कि क्या इंडियन जो वो है इंडियन लेदर इंडस्ट्रियल ग्लव्स cheaper than Pakistan and South African market?
Indian is completely out from us. Pakistan is the top of the range in the leather side. Alhamdulillah, we have a very good quality from Pakistan, which is coming from most of 90% stock is coming from Sialkot, and also come from Sialkot. I born in Sialkot, and Alhamdulillah, we're proud to be a Pakistani. और हमारी ये जो product है पाकिस्तान की, one of the best product, because people sometimes is calling us and they said which country you from, and the product is where come from. When the people say from China, honestly speaking, nobody gonna give us opportunity to supply them. So most of time हमें ये बहुत बड़ी opportunity मिलती है when we use the name coming from Pakistan. So हमारी each product जो है वो made in Pakistan की stamp के साथ आती है. और हमसे बहुत बड़े यहाँ के जो chain store हैं, जब वो हमें call करते हैं तो the first question they ask in the product is Chinese or Pakistan. चाइना की क्वालिटी जो है वो हमसे बहुत पीछे है. इंडिया तो बिल्कुल कंप्लीटली आउट है साउथ अफ्रीका के मार्केट में. इंडिया तो समझ लो कि आपको 2 या 3% लोग यहाँ पे नजर आएंगे. मोस्टली जो है वो चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट है यहाँ पे हर आइटम्स में. लेकिन चाइना जो है हमारे जो है इंटरनेशनल साइजेस हैं, हाई हैंड साइज जो है वो इंटरनेशनल है, जबकि चाइनीज के जो हैंड है वो बहुत छोटे साइजेस हैं, जिसकी वजह से चाइनीज जो है वो चीपर तो सेल करते हैं लेकिन उनको बहुत सी प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं क्वालिटी के मामले में, जिसकी वजह से अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमें पाकिस्तान की प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर फख्र भी है. और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारा मोस्ट ऑफ स्टॉक जो है वो प्री सोल्ड होता है बिकॉज ऑफ क्वालिटी. जी, एनी क्वेश्चन?
जी सर. सर कोई है जो कि एक्सपोर्टर है, पूछना चाह रहा है, दे डू फैब्रिकेशन ऑफ फायर ट्रक्स एंड एम्बुलेंसेस. व्हाट आप इसके बारे में क्या कहेंगे सर? आई I know it's maybe not your area, but if you know something about it.
It is not related, that question to, I think, is a safety question. We're talking about the PPE.
Sir, actually, so ये question जिनकी तरफ से आया, Haseen Abhi Corporation, it is one of the leading fire
जी.
safety equipment exporter from Pakistan. So they want to know if they
जी.
have any potential, any likelihood of increasing exports in the fire safety equipment towards South African market. Anything that you could guide us in increasing our export potential of fire safety towards South Africa, please.
Sir, fire safety से related, as I told you, it's not a very big experience. हम लोग कुछ items हैं जिसमें बहुत सी कंपनी में हमें challenges है जो हम normal glass welding के लिए import करते हैं. Some customers they required what you call is that heat resistance or fire retardant. तो उसके लिए हमें काफी challenge है पाकिस्तान से वो product मंगाने के लिए. तो वो glass में जो है वो हमने already exercise उस पे की है and alhamdulillah we got the success. उसके लिए साउथ अफ्रीका में काफी बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है. अगर फायर प्रूफ ग्लव्स हों तो उसमें डेफिनेटली देयर इज अपॉर्चुनिटी. जी जी वालेकुम सलाम
जी, मैं अली बात कर रहा हूँ सियालकोट स्पोर्ट्स सियालकोट से. क्या हाल है आपके? ठीक है
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह.
अच्छा सर, हम बेसिकली आपको शायद हो इंफॉर्मेशन पिछले 30-35 साल से इसी सेफ्टी में ही काम कर रहे हैं. लेकिन
जी.
हमारा जो मेरा इशू है रिगार्डिंग वो ये है कि साउथ अफ्रीका का जो कस्टम्स की जो इश्यूज हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा हैं, जिसमें EORI नंबर भी मांगते हैं और पता नहीं क्या क्या मांगते हैं. फिर उसके बाद हमें एडवांस में जो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है पहले एजेंट को भेजने पड़ते हैं, वो फिर कस्टम से अप्रूवल लेता है और फिर उसके बाद जो है ना उसकी सारी प्रोसेसिंग वगैरह होती है. और सर्टिफिकेशन के अकॉर्डिंग अगर आप आ जाएं तो CE मार्किंग आपने बोला है, तो CE मार्किंग जो हमने EN स्टैंडर्ड्स लिए हुए हैं ऑलरेडी, जो हमारी यूरोप में हम चला रहे हैं, जो यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में है, जिसमें EN 388 आता है, EN 420 है, या फायर का आप कह रहे हैं 507 है, या 511 है, या 407 है. ये सारे हमारे पास जो अवेलेबल हैं कुछ आर्टिकल्स के पर्टिकुलर, तो वो ही सेम एज इट इज ही जाएंगे या हमें उसकी एक्सटेंशन लेनी पड़ेगी किसी के लिए, जैसे हम अपने किसी कस्टमर के लिए एक्सटेंशन लेते हैं?
लेकिन जी आपके वो जो सर्टिफिकेट है इज अ वैलिड इन साउथ अफ्रीका. यहाँ पे हम लोग भी जो पाकिस्तान से स्टॉक सारा मंगवा रहे हैं उन्हीं सर्टिफिकेट्स के ऊपर ही मंगवा रहे हैं. और ये बात जो भी एजेंट ने आपको बोली है कि उनको ऑथराइजेशन कस्टम से पहले रिक्वायर्ड है, दिस इज द रॉन्ग इन्फॉर्मेशन. हमारा कंटेनर यहाँ पे जब लग जाता है हम उसके कस्टम में इसका प्रोसीजर क्या है, ये एवरीथिंग इज इलेक्ट्रॉनिक. सो इसका प्रोसीजर ये है कि आप जब इसकी कस्टम की शीट फिलअप करते हो, आप अपने इंपोर्ट के डॉक्यूमेंट सारे साथ लगाते हो, तो उसके बाद कंप्यूटर जो है वो जनरेट करता है कि इसको हमें इंक्वायरी पे डालना है या रिलीज करना है. अगर तो सिस्टम बोलता है कि सस्पिशियस है, अंडर इनवाइसिंग है या कुछ भी है, कोई भी रीजन से सिस्टम अगर आपको गिविंग यू द इंफॉर्मेशन they require the documents, so then you need to send them BL, packing list or invoices, whatever documents belong to shipment, you have to submit that one. जब आप सबमिट करते हो उसके ठीक 24 आवर्स के अंदर सिस्टम जो है वो यहाँ तो आपको रिलीज इशू कर देगा, यहाँ वो आपको स्टॉप कर देगा कंटेनर को फिजिकल एग्जामिनेशन. तो फिजिकल एग्जामिनेशन में जो एजेंट हैं वो वहाँ जाते हैं, सारा कंटेनर ऑफलोड होता है. ऑफलोड के बाद वो 2 या 3 दिन के अंदर अंदर वो रिपोर्ट लोड करते हैं. देखिए प्रॉब्लम्स तो हैं लेकिन अगर आप ये बोलो कि अगर आपको प्री अप्रूवल चाहिए तो प्री अप्रूवल की जरूरत नहीं है आपको.
प्री अप्रूवल की जरूरत नहीं, लेकिन अगर कई दफा ऐसे होता है कि जिस तरह कोई न्यू कह लें एंट्रेंस है, न्यू एक्सपोर्टर है, वो एंटर हो रहा है अगर साउथ अफ्रीकन मार्केट के अंदर, और एंटर होने के बाद वो ये करे कि उसके बाद जब वो शिपमेंट भेज देता है वहां पे, और वहां पे जाके कुछ ऐसी प्रॉब्लम थी कि हम एजेंट के साथ डिस्कस करते हैं कि जी ये हमारी सर्टिफिकेशन भी है, हमारे पास सब कुछ है, लेकिन वहां के साउथ अफ्रीका की कोई सर्टिफिकेशन, कोई उनकी पर्टिकुलर कहेंगे जी हमारी कंट्री में आने के लिए ये सर्टिफिकेशन रिक्वायर्ड है, कोई ऐसी कोई हिडन सर्टिफिकेशन या रिक्वायरमेंट कस्टम्स की तरफ से वो कोई
आप प्रोडक्ट कौन सी भाई, आप प्रोडक्ट कौन सी, किस प्रोडक्ट की आप बात कर रहे हैं?
मैं बात कर रहा हूँ ग्लव्स की, जो सेफ्टी के ग्लव्स हैं.
जी सर मैं 14 ईयर से इंपोर्ट कर रहा हूँ सियालकोट से. ठीक है, मैं सियालकोट से बिलोंग करता हूँ और मेरी फैक्ट्री भी सियालकोट में है. मैं 14 ईयर से इंपोर्ट कर रहा हूँ. दे नेवर एवर आस्क मी दिस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चन. मोस्टली व्हाट दे आस्क, वो आपसे ये जो जरूरी डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं वो पूछेंगे, और उसके बाद मैक्सिमम आपसे जो रिक्वायर्ड है वो प्रूफ ऑफ पेमेंट है कि अगर आपने सप्लायर को पेमेंट की है तो उसका प्रूफ आप जो है वो सप्लाई करो। वर्स्ट सिनेरियो समटाइम दे आस्किंग द सेल्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, ठीक है, वो सेल्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जो भी मेरा और सप्लायर का है वो मुझे वो भी प्रोवाइड करना है, और देन इज एक्सपोर्ट एंट्री। बस ये कोई ऐसा हिडन डॉक्यूमेंट्स ऐसा नहीं है। देखिए जी बात ये है, ये जो एजेंट आपको रॉन्ग इन्फॉर्मेशन पास कर रहा है, अगर आपका एजेंट स्ट्रांग नहीं है तो देन यू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स। Normally you don't need to require any specific, even I'm telling you now, even they're not going to ask you that what you call is that the CE marked that certificate। अभी सिर्फ ये पिछले 3 महीने से साउथ अफ्रीका में एक न्यू लॉ है जिसको लेबर लॉ बोला जाता है। उस लॉ में क्या है कि कोई भी प्रोडक्ट्स पूरी दुनिया से किसी भी किस्म की प्रोडक्ट आएगी, अगर उसका ओरिजिन ऑफ कंट्री, स्पेसिफिकेशन ऑफ प्रोडक्ट अगर उस पर पीस के ऊपर मेंशन नहीं होगा, then they will not clear your shipment। Then they said you can export that, you can send it back that shipment।
This is applicable all over the world। ये तो
ये just started now in South Africa। उसमें बहुत से पाकिस्तानियों के कंटेनर वापस भी गए हैं।
Okay, yes, I have information regarding that, and this is apply all over the world। ये all over the world हो रहा है, जिसमें मेड इन पाकिस्तान कंपल्सरी है आपने प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर लिखना है, और यहाँ तक कि पॉली बैग के ऊपर भी हम स्टिकर लगाते हैं कि मेड इन पाकिस्तान है।
थैंक यू अली
Thank you so much sir, it's a nice meeting।
Okay, nice meeting।
थैंक यू साहब, थैंक यू। दाऊद जियाउद्दीन साहब का क्वेश्चन है सर कि हाउ डू यू इंपोर्ट LCL और FCL, व्हिच इज द चीपेस्ट वे?
Of course it's container, of course container is cheaper, full container is cheaper, and LCL is always expensive and it takes more time, transit time is more।
ठीक है सर। सर एक और साहब है, उन्होंने पूछा है दे प्रिपेयर इलेक्ट्रिकल आर्क सेफ्टी अपैरल, आग वाला जो अपैरल होता है सर, तो एनी पोटेंशियल इन दैट मार्केट और एनी इंफॉर्मेशन इफ यू कुड शेयर अबाउट दैट मार्केट?
So you talking about the leather one?
नहीं सर, वो जो ऐसा प्लास्टिक वगैरह का होता है, डू नॉट नो अबाउट द texture of the material, वो जो full on होता है, and then
After COVID is a lot of big demand in this country, which is called disposable overall।
Disposable overall. The person who has made this comment, I would request if he could share some detail on it, because as far as I know sir, वो जो इन्होंने एक चीज सामने पहनी हुई होती है वो बिल्कुल स्पेस सूट की तरह ही लग रहा होता है इन फैक्ट्रीज एंड यू नो इन जहां पर ज्यादा इलेक्ट्रिक इक्विपमेंट्स, आर्क फ्लैश प्रोटेक्शन।
जी तो बिल्कुल साउथ अफ्रीका में उसकी डिमांड है, नो डाउट।
ओके सर। सर, आर देयर एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस? जी मोहम्मद यासिर साहब, आप प्लीज अगर आप अपना क्वेश्चन खुद पूछ ले, यू कैन टर्न।
एग्जैक्टली ये इलेक्ट्रिक आर्क जो सेफ्टी अपैरल है, ये अगेन जिस तरह आपने बताया वो सेफ्टी सूट जो होता है ना स्पेस में, उसी टाइप का दिखता है। आगे उसके वो
शीट होती है
का वो होता है कि देखने के लिए, मतलब शायद ये इलेक्ट्रिक शॉक से भी महफूज रखता है और इस टाइप के इक्विपमेंट में भी हेल्पफुल रहता है। तो ये शायद ये लोग बना रहे हैं इलेक्ट्रिक आर्क सेफ्टी अपैरल्स, तो वो जानना चाह रहे हैं कि इसका पोटेंशियल कैसा है साउथ अफ्रीकन मार्केट में।
देखिए जी, पोटेंशियल तो बिल्कुल नो डाउट साउथ अफ्रीका में बहुत बड़ी पोटेंशियल है, लेकिन इसके लिए यहाँ पे एक कंपनी है साउथ अफ्रीका में इन जोहान्सबर्ग, दे बिलोंग फ्रॉम न्यूजीलैंड। वो यहाँ पे उन्होंने बहुत बड़ा यहाँ पे सेटअप लगाया हुआ है और दे मैन्युफैक्चर लोकली है। उनके पास सिर्फ ये सूट नहीं, इस तरह से फायर से रिलेटेड बहुत सी ऐसी चीजें हैं, दे मैन्युफैक्चर हियर इन साउथ अफ्रीका। और अगर पाकिस्तान इज अ चीपर एंड वी गोना बीट दैट प्राइस, सो व्हाई नॉट, देयर इज अ पोटेंशियल।
Okay. Are there any other questions from the participants? If not, I have duly noted the request from जो हसीन हबीब कॉर्पोरेशन है, उन्होंने जी यही उन्होंने they have raised very valid protection sector, industrial fire protection system, और उससे related fire alarms, fire hydrants, sprinklers. NRCS in reply to them informed that is dealt by NRCS automotive division. In pursuant of this webinar, we will specifically in collaboration with TDAP do another webinar जो के fire alarms, ambulances उस पे focused होगा। और I believe कि पाकिस्तान में I did not, I may excuse my ignorance on that, मुझे नहीं मालूम था कि ये भी बनता है, लेकिन अगर ये बनता है तो we will organize this webinar. Even if we have to do it for one manufacturer, we will do it for you. So in the follow up of this webinar हम लोग आपके लिए उस sector पे specifically कर लेंगे. Are there any other questions? अगर आप कोई और questions नहीं है तो we can conclude this session. जी सर.
मैं ये चाहूँगा कि ये जो शेयर किया है इन्होंने इंफॉर्मेशन रिगार्डिंग दैट ओवरऑल जो है इसमें आई एम वेरी इंटरेस्टेड इन साउथ अफ्रीका, सो मैं इनके लिए ये मार्केटिंग कर सकता हूँ. आप मेरी इंफॉर्मेशन ईमेल और कंपनी डिटेल इनको पास कर दें एंड दे मस्ट सेंड मी द ऑल इंफॉर्मेशन व्हाट आई रिक्वायर्ड, अपनी वो जो कैटलॉग है और जो सैंपल्स है. सो इंशाल्लाह आई विल ट्राई माय बेस्ट टू गेट सम बिजनेस फॉर देम.
ठीक है सर. सर वो फायर अलार्म फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर वाला
नहीं, ये जो सूट है.
अच्छा ये स्पेस सूट. आई एम सॉरी, that's my shortcut for that. Okay. They are there here. Okay, this is Mohammed Yasir. Ali from TDAP, please मेरे साथ इनके contact share कीजिएगा. This is Mohammed Yasir from Rashid Ahmed.
जी मैम,
जी
मैं शेयर कर लूँगा बिल्कुल.
Thank you so much, Ali Sheikh Sahab. Yes, we have a Tabiso. Yes, Tabiso, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was going to be given an opportunity to introduce myself before we conclude. So that's why I jumped in.
Yes.
My name is Tavizo and I represent AFCOP, which stands for Africa Conformity Breach. And we essentially help exporters, importers, and local manufacturers to comply to South African regulations that are set by the NRCS as well as ICASA in terms of wireless communication devices and telecommunication equipment. So our scope is mainly on electronic and electrical products, but we do a few protective equipment as well. We do help importers with complying to regulations as set by the NRCS. So I just wanted to clarify in terms of the scope that the NRCS covers. The NRCS covers a wide range of scope. It has different types of departments: automotive, electrotechnical, CMM, which is relevant to today's topic. CMM means chemical, materials, and mechanical products. So with regards to that, how the NRCS works, they have what they call VCs. These VCs are essentially directives which tell you what the technical requirements, the products that the NRCS cover should comply to. Inside the technical requirements, there are specifications or product standards, like your IEC 60598 for IT equipment, for example. So the model of the NRCS is based in such a way. So it's not a straightforward directive where you could find what is covered at large. It's different types of directives based on these VCs, where it will give you guidance on what products does the NRCS cover and what products do they not cover. So I just wanted to give you just a brief overview on that. And I will share my email address and my contact number as well as our website for you to be able to have a bigger picture on what we do and how we can help, especially with regards to PPE. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I did mention you in the beginning, your contacts were shared by NRCS. Thank you. I did not know you were here in the session, but we are honored by your presence. And the participant, please do share your email, especially with my office, because I'm responsible for the South African end to share information, or with the Pakistani end, but do share your email and your phone number on the website so that the participants can note it down, and if they would like to contact you directly, they are most welcome to do that. Shujat Ali from Haseen Habib Corporation, the one who builds firefighting system and all these. NRCS representative has been kind to inform us and educate us at the same time on the firefighting structure and all the regulations in place. As I said, we in follow-up of this webinar, we will do one specifically for this sector, because today's session is, unfortunately, my presentation is not enough, or it does not have that information for the sector that you manufacture your material in. My apologies for that, and we will do a webinar specifically for you. If there are any other questions, please raise them, or if somebody wants to share something, please go ahead before we conclude the session.
Yes, ma'am. I think you were very wonderful in presenting your presentation and representing different sectors. And as far as the fire safety equipment sector, जिस तरह आपने कहा कि हम कोई और वेबिनार इसी सीरीज में एक और वेबिनार अरेंज कर लेंगे जिसमें आपकी तरफ से ये सारी जो क्यूरीज थी फायर सेफ्टी इक्विपमेंट्स इन पाकिस्तान में वो सारी हल हो जाएंगी, उनको डायरेक्ट कर दिया जाएगा और उनको खास तौर पर पोटेंशियल उनको पता चल जाएगा कि साउथ अफ्रीकन मार्केट में कैसा है फायर सेफ्टी का पोटेंशियल.
Thank you so much, Ali. And I believe with this we will conclude our session. I believe today's session was very helpful. Ali, do share my email address with all of the participants. I would request the participants, those who are listening to us, please share your feedback on the webinar with my office, because it is very important for me to evolve and to improve the session that we do. Be as honest as you can. If there is some information you believe we are missing, if you are not satisfied with something, do let us know, and we will try to cover those areas in future. And thank you so much. We will share a list of importers from South Africa following this webinar with all those who are who participated today from Pakistan. जो पाकिस्तान से आज मौजूद है, प्लीज अपना ईमेल एड्रेस और कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर्स जो है, लैंडलाइन, मोबाइल, व्हाट्सएप, प्लीज वो शेयर कीजिएगा अली उमर के साथ, जो TDAP रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है अली उमर साहब के साथ, ताकि वो हमारे साथ शेयर कर ले. With this, I'll like to thank Mr. Ali Sheikh Sahab. Thank you so much for your time. I know, sir, you are very busy, but thank you so much for being with us and educating us about the market and all the certification details. Very grateful to to AFCOM representative who joined us today. Indeed, very grateful to NRCS representative who was also present today in the session on a very short notice. We're really grateful to them, and to the High Commissioner of Pakistan as well, SF Odindal. So would you like to say something? I think from NRCS.
Yes, madam. Yes, I'm from the NRCS, and I was under the impression that I had to do a presentation today.
Yes,
concerning personal protective equipment.
Oh yes, sir. I did inform one of the GM. I do not know if he was of your, but you are most welcome. We would love to have a presentation from you. I was informed that NRCS, because it is a short notice, so there will be only a participation from NRCS, but you are most welcome. Participants would like to know about you. If your presentation is ready.
Okay, yes, thank you. Just give me a moment. It's the first time that I'm using Zoom.
Okay. No worries. You just go. Yeah.
Okay. I hope you can see my presentation.
Yes, I can see.
I will try to keep it as short as possible. It's on the regulation of personal protective equipment by the NRCS in South Africa. Oh, by the way, I'm Simo Urandal. I'm a technical specialist with the Chemicals, Mechanical and Materials Division of the NRCS. I will quickly speak about the regulatory model, consumer recourse, exemptions, and levies and fees. We regulate personal protective equipment as the NRCS by means of the technical regulation best practice model that was developed by the World Trade Organization to prevent the creation of technical barriers to trade. So I will use this module in my explanation of how we regulate personal protective equipment. Firstly, the technical regulations that we are currently regulating concerning personal protective equipment. Now, a technical regulation, we call it a compulsory specification, and a previous speaker has referred to a VC. Now, that is the same as a compulsory specification. It's firstly, we regulate personal protective equipment. That's like life jackets and buoyancy aids. Then the compulsory specification for swimming aids. That's swimming aids that are worn or carried on the body and swim seats. It's those little wings that small children are wearing when they're in a swimming pool, for example, that prevent them from drowning. Then there's respiratory protective devices that includes filtering devices like what people usually call dust masks, as well as breathing apparatus. And then we also regulate safety footwear for protection against impact and compression. Then concerning the legislation part of the regulatory model, that's an enabling mechanism for government to implement these policies. And that's protection of the environment and protection of the public against unsafe commodities, products, and services. Now, in this case, the legislation is the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications Act of 2008, as amended by the Legal Metrology Act of 2014. As well as regulations is published by Government Notice number R924 of 15 October 2010. Those are the enabling legislation for us to administer the technical regulations that I've shown you. Now, standards, that defines the product safety characteristics for the different personal protective equipment that we regulate. And compliance with the standards are compulsory through the technical regulations that I've shown you. Now, the standards that are applicable for personal protective equipment, that's life jackets and buoyancy aids. The first 8 parts of SANS 12402. By the way, SANS stands for South African National Standard. Now, the South African National Standard 12402 has been harmonized with the International Standard 12402. So it's exactly the same as the international standard. So if you comply with this international standard, then you will comply with the South African national standard. And if your product has been tested to the international standard, then we will accept the test results for compliance with the South African national standard. When it comes to swimming aids, the applicable standard is parts 1 and 3 of SANS 53138. And both parts of SANS 53138 has been harmonized with the European standard EN 13138. When it comes to respiratory protective devices, in our technical regulation, we refer to 28 different South African national standards. I haven't listed all of them here because it will be a very long list. And all of the South African national standards for respiratory protective devices have been harmonized with the European EN standards. So if you comply with a European EN standard, your product, then it will comply with our South African national standards on respiratory protective devices. And lastly, on safety footwear for protection against impact and compression, the relevant standard is SANS 20345. And again, SANS 20345 has been harmonized with the international standard ISO 20345. So if your safety footwear complies with the international standard, then it will comply with the South African national standard. Then on the administrative procedures, the NRCS has been established by means of the NRCS Act number 5 of 2008. Now, the impression is still there that we belong to the South African Bureau of Standards, the SABS, but that's no longer the case since the change of legislation in 2008. We're now a separate entity from the South African Bureau of Standards. The South African Bureau of Standards is now mainly involved with creating South African national standards, as well as they still have laboratories that do testing, and also they provide product certification and system certification services. However, we as the national regulator for compulsory specifications, we are responsible for the administration of certain technical regulations in South Africa that's not named compulsory specifications. Now, we as the Chemicals, Mechanical and Materials Division of the NRCS is responsible for monitoring and enforcing compliance with the technical regulations for personal protective equipment. Now we have two conformity assessment mechanisms available to us for the administration of the technical regulations for personal protective equipment. Firstly, approvals. That a confirmation by the NRCS that the type of PPE is in compliance with the relevant technical regulation. Now, if you want to import personal protective equipment from Pakistan, then you need to first have approval from the NRCS for the specific type of PPE that you want to import into South Africa. But again, I just want to mention at this stage that US exporter from Pakistan cannot apply to us for approval of a type of personal protective equipment. Only an importer based in South Africa can apply for the approval of a type of PPE. Because we can only hold an importer that's based in South Africa to be liable under the NRCS Act for compliance with the relevant requirements. Then secondly, we have the surveillance inspection function in place, whereby we send out inspectors into the market to inspect commodities, products and services for compliance with the relevant technical regulations. And it's also a monitoring mechanism for us to monitor compliance with the technical regulations. In approvals, to elaborate on those two conformity assessment functions, approvals, now in order to have a type of PPE approved by us, and this is just a general list of requirements. I did not elaborate on them because it's going to take a long time. Firstly, you need to make an application for the approval of a type of PPE. Then you need to pay a non-refundable application fee for the approval of the type of PPE as published in the Government Gazette. And then you need to submit for the type of PPE that you want to have approved a technical description supported by technical drawings. That's basically the design drawings for the type of PPE that needs to be approved. The details of the marking on the packaging, the instructions for use, then test reports demonstrating compliance with the relevant South African national standard. And remember, as I've mentioned earlier, if the product has been manufactured overseas, like in Pakistan, and it has been tested to the relevant European EN standard or relevant international standard by an accredited laboratory, then we will accept the test results. So when you don't necessarily have to have the product retested in South Africa for compliance, it can be tested overseas. And then lastly, we also need evidence of conformity production and routine test. That means we need evidence that your product will be regularly tested for compliance with the relevant standard. And then on the surveillance inspection side, our market monitoring function, we can perform our surveillance inspections at any reasonable time and without prior notice. And we can inspect any premises where PPE is manufactured, sold, used, stored, imported, or exported. And our first priority is to find non-compliant suppliers and act against them. And again, our inspections are random and our sampling is also random. We also have the powers under the Act to sample a product and submit it for testing in order to monitor its compliance. Then on sanctions, that's the mechanism available to us under legislation to prevent the availability of non-compliant commodities, products and services to consumers. And we use our conformity assessment mechanisms to identify non-conforming commodities, products and services in the marketplace. And if we find a non-compliant product in the market, then we implement our sanction function. And that's a restraint of non-compliant commodities, products and services in the South African marketplace. And powers available to us, we can withdraw the approval that was granted for the type of PPE. We can issue directives in terms of the Act, instructing a person to keep a non-compliant product at a certain location. We can confiscate and destroy the non-compliant product. We also have the function of, or the power to send it back to the country of origin. We can institute legal prosecution in a court of law against the supplier of a non-compliant product. And we can also inform or warn the public of a supplier of a non-compliant product by means of press releases. Then we also have a consumer recourse function in place, whereby any individual or organization can report a supply of non-compliant PPE to us for further action. However, we need the following information for our investigation. Firstly, the name of the importer, seller, or supplier of the non-compliant product, the type of non-compliant product, and the physical address and contact details of the importer, seller, or supplier that supplies such a non-compliant product. Then we also advise reporters of such suppliers of non-compliant products to keep the following evidence at hand: proof of purchase or other delivery documents of such non-compliant products, the product itself as all accompanying documentation. And then if we have received a report of a non-compliant product verbally, then we will give the reporter verbal feedback of our investigation, or if the report was in writing, we will give the reporter feedback in writing. However, within the limits of Section 32 of the Act, because Section 32 of the NRCS Act limits us to the amount of information we can give to a third party regarding an investigation. And then the details of the report will not be divulged to the alleged contravener. And then there's also an exemption available to suppliers of personal protective equipment, whereby in terms of sections 14.4 and 5 of the NRCS Act, the NRCS may issue a sales permit exempting the person to whom it has been issued from complying with the Act for non-compliant personal protective equipment. So we can give you an exemption to supply non-compliant personal protective equipment into the South African marketplace. And that exemption is usually for personal protective equipment that you want to export, that's in non-compliant with the South African technical regulation, but it's in compliance with an overseas requirement. Then we can give you a sales permit for such export purposes. Or if you want to supply an experimental type of commodity or product. But a sales permit is only issued in exceptional circumstances. And then a sales permit also covers the resale of the commodity or product, and application shall be made to the CEO of the NRCS for sales permit. And then there's also an application fee payable for making an application for sales permit. And usually a sales permit is subjected to conditions of issue. For example, there's a time limit on the sales permit and also a limit on the batch size of the non-compliant product that you want to supply into the South African market. Then levies of fees, that's a funding mechanism available to us as the NRCS for the administration of technical regulations. I've stated here a lot of information, but what it boils down to is that in the Government Gazette, application or specific fees are published for the different types of personal protective equipment that we regulate. And for each item that you want to import into South Africa, you need to pay a levy to us as the NRCS. And as I've indicated, the levies are published in the Government Gazette from time to time, and they are updated from time to time by means of publication in the Government Gazette. And you have to pay for each levy period. So for each levy period, now period A is from 1 January till the 30th of June. And period B is from the 1st of July to the 31st of December. Now, for each period, you need to declare how many items of a specific type of PPE you have imported into South Africa. And based on that amount, you need to pay the relevant levy to us. And that funds our administration function of the different technical regulations. And that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Odendal, if I am pronouncing your name correctly. If not, then do excuse me and do correct me. I would like to learn it. Thank you so much for very precise and very informative presentation. I would briefly translate it into my national language for the participants, especially the application part. Participants, अगर आपको presentation समझ में नहीं आई है, तो इसमें एक दो इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट जो स्पेसिफिकली इन्होंने इंपोर्ट और एप्लीकेशन सर्टिफिकेशन से विद रिगार्ड टू वो बताई है, वो ये है कि जो प्रोडक्ट स्पेसिफिकेशन सर्टिफिकेट के लिए जो प्रोसेस इनिशिएट करेगा वो कोई और नहीं कर सकता है, वो सिर्फ जो इम्पोर्टर है साउथ अफ्रीका में बेस्ड वो कर सकता है। दूसरा ये कि इनके इंस्पेक्टर मार्केट में रेगुलरली जाते हैं जो कि चेक करते हैं और वो मॉनिटरिंग का काम भी करते हैं। तो उसमें अगर एक प्रोडक्ट आई है मार्केट में और उसमें ये खुद मॉनिटर करते हुए अगर कोई नॉन कंप्लायंट पाया जाता है तो उसके खिलाफ प्रोडक्ट विड्रॉ कर दिया जाता है। और थैंक यू Odendal, I believe you're very good at understanding what I am saying. You exactly put that slide on screen. Thank you. तो ये अपना ये और उस पे मुख्तलिफ किस्म की जैसे कि वो उनकी अप्रूवल ले लेते हैं पूरी, उनको मुख्तलिफ किस्म की हिदायत जारी कर देते हैं, चीज़ें लेके कन्फिस्केट करके डिस्ट्रॉय कर देते हैं, कोर्ट में ले जाते हैं और या फिर उस पे प्रेस अखबारों में भी चला जाता है। दूसरी बात जो उन्होंने बड़ी अच्छी की कि एक कंज्यूमर भी अगर वर्बली उसने कंप्लेन किया तो वर्बली ये लोग उसके ऊपर जवाब देंगे, राइटिंग में कंज्यूमर ने कंप्लेन किया राइटिंग में। तो कहने का मतलब ये था कि बी वेरी केयरफुल अबाउट दिस स्पेसिफिकेशन सर्टिफिकेशन जितना भी होता है। मिस्टर ओडेंडाल, आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन इफ ऑन द लेवीज I would request for some information. You mentioned the levy period is, there are two. What do you mean by levy period? Let's suppose I am an importer and I imported PPE from Pakistan, and what does the levy period in this regard, I mean, holds for me? What do I have to do? Is it some kind of a fee or something that I have to pay twice a year?
Yes, it's a type of fee that you need to pay to the NRCS. Okay. So if I can make an example, you importing safety shoes into South Africa.
Okay.
Now, for example, you have imported 60 shoes. Okay, it's very small amounts, but just for an example. We imported 60 pairs of shoes, safety shoes during February of this year. Okay. And you have also imported 30 pairs of shoes during June this year. for example.
Okay, okay.
Then at the end of the levy period, you will see on my presentation that you have imported those 90 pairs of shoes in total during the A period
Yeah.
of this year. That's 1st of January till the 30th of June. Now, at the end of the levy period, you will receive as importer. Now, as importer, you will be liable for the payment of levies to the NRCS, as was published in the Government Gazette. Now, at the end of the levy period, you as importer that will be liable for the payment of levies will receive a form from the NRCS on which you will have to declare the amount of safety shoes that you've imported into South Africa for the A levy period. So then on that form, you declare the 90 pairs of shoes that you have imported. And then you need to multiply that 90 pairs of safety shoes with the levy fee per pair of shoes that you have to pay to the NRCS. And then you need to make your payment to the NRCS on the amount of safety shoes that you've imported into South Africa. And that is how the payment of the fees work. The fee that I'm referring to is the levy. We call it a levy. It's a type of tax that you need to pay to the NRCS on the amount of type of personal protective equipment that you import into South Africa.
Okay. Okay. I will translate this to the participant, and then I have one more question. So Odindal साहब ने ये कहा है कि अगर आपने अपने लेट सपोज जूते इंपोर्ट किए हैं, ये इंपोर्टर के लिए है कि अगर वो 1 जनवरी में उसने जूते किए हैं और फिर उसने जून में किए हुए हैं, तो उन जूतों का ये लोग लेवी लगाते हैं जो कि फॉर्म पर टैक्स है, और यह टैक्स पे किया जाता है टू एनआरसीएस। साल को 6 महीनों में इन्होंने तकसीम किया हुआ है, और पहले 6 महीने के गुजरने के बाद फॉर्म मिलता है एनआरसीएस से, और उस फॉर्म में डिक्लेयर किया जाता है कि कितने जोड़े जो है लेट सपोज जूतों के इंपोर्टर ने इंपोर्ट किए, और फिर हर जूते के ऊपर जितना टैक्स है मल्टीप्लाइड नंबर ऑफ जूते, तो वो टैक्स एनआरसीएस को सबमिट किया जाता है। मिस्टर ओडेंडाल, इफ समबडी डिलेज और डज नॉट within that specified period levy, they do not pay the levy, what are the repercussions for it?
Okay, in terms of the NRCS Act, firstly, we can make an estimate on the number of PPE that you've imported. And then based on that estimate, we can invoice you for the payment of the fee of the levy based on our estimate. There are also other, we can take legal prosecution against you in a court of law, and you can get a fine or imprisonment depending on what the court of law decides if you are found guilty. We can also during our surveillance inspections of our inspectors, they will also check your levy payments to us to see if it's up to date. And if we find that you are either under declaring on the amount that you import or that you don't declare at all, we can also send forensic auditors to you to audit your books to see on the amount of PPE that you've imported into South Africa for further action by us. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Odendal. I believe the participants, अगर participants को कोई भी point समझ में नहीं आया है, ताकि मैं आपको उसका जवाब दे दूं। Mr. Odendal, I just have, and you very kindly pointed out about the, there is this manufacturer of ambulances and fire extinguishers and he is present in the audience, and you pointed out that the Department of Labor has regulation in place for fire fighting equipments like fire extinguishers. So the Department of Labor has the regulations, NRCS does not have to do with those things. How is it?
Yes. Okay. Firstly, on ambulances and fire trucks,
Yes, sir.
the best is to contact our automotive division because they are regulating automotive vehicles
Okay.
like passenger cars, and trucks, and so forth. They will be able to direct the importer to the right place regarding possible requirements on ambulances and fire trucks.
Okay, sir.
Concerning fire fighting equipment like hydrants and fire extinguishers, the best place to approach is the South African Department of Labor. They have regulations in place for things like fire extinguishers. We don't have, as the NRCS, don't have requirements in place for firefighting equipment like fire extinguishers. The closest we get to that is on breathing apparatus that firemen are using, that we regulate by means of the compulsory specification for respiratory protective devices. But things like hydrants and fire extinguishers, the best place is the Department of Labor.
Department of Labor. Okay, sir. One more thing that came to my mind was, is there anything you said? If most of the PPE, if the PPE product meets the ISO standards, then then they will be automatically complying with the South African national standard. Am I correct, Mr. Odinda?
Yes, yes. Again, I just want to make an example. For example, on respiratory protective devices. On respiratory protective devices, the European standard that's applicable to particle filtering half masks, that's that dust mask, if I can put it like that you put on your face to protect your respiratory tract against particulate matter like dust or even droplets carrying harmful microorganisms like viruses. That type of respiratory protective device is covered by the scope of the European standard EN 149. Now, in our compulsory specification, such particle filtering half masks need to comply with SANS 50149. Now, SANS 50149 is exactly the same as European standard EN 149. Now, if you're manufacturing particle filtering half mask in Pakistan, and you want to export it to South Africa, then it needs to be tested to European standard EN 149. Now, the importer in South Africa, when he's ordering the masks from the manufacturer in Pakistan, then the manufacturer in Pakistan needs to supply that European test report to the South African importer. And if the test report was issued by an accredited laboratory, if the testing was done by a laboratory that was accredited by an accreditation body that belongs to the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation Mutual Recognition Arrangement, then we will accept the test report for compliance with the South African national standard. So yes, if your product was tested to the relevant European standard or international standard by an accredited laboratory, then we will accept the test results.
Okay, that's very. Let me just translate this to the audience. अरिंदल साहब कह रहे हैं कि अगर आपके पास आईएसओ आपके प्रोडक्ट जो आप मैन्युफैक्चर कर रहे हैं उसके रेलेवेंट आईएसओ सर्टिफिकेशन है आपके पास अक्रेडिटेड लेबोरेटरी से, मैं इनसे पूछूंगी कि कौन सी इंटरनेशनल एक्रेडिटेशन लेबोरेटरी एक्रेडिटेशन की एक एजेंसी है, अगर वहाँ से लेबोरेटरी एक्रेडिटेड है और वहाँ से आपने आईएसओ स्टैंडर्ड है या फिर यूरोपियन स्टैंडर्ड्स के मुताबिक आपके प्रोडक्ट के पास वो सर्टिफिकेशन है, तो आप जो इम्पोर्टर है उसको या तो वो सर्टिफिकेट दीजिए या फिर लेबोरेटरी टेस्टिंग रिपोर्ट से वो अपने इम्पोर्टर्स को दे दीजिए, तो उसके साउथ अफ्रीकन नेशनल स्टैंडर्ड वो मीट कर लेंगे। साउथ अफ्रीकन नेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स इन्होंने बनाए ही ऐसे हैं जो कि इंटरनेशनल या आईएसओ स्टैंडर्ड और यूरोपियन स्टैंडर्ड्स के को कॉरेस्पॉन्ड करते हैं, उनके साथ इन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं है, उनके साथ हार्मोनाइज्ड है। तो अगर आपके पास इस लेवल की सर्टिफिकेशन है तो from accredited laboratories. Now, sir, would you kindly repeat the name of that international accreditation laboratory accreditation agency? Please, I want to note it down.
Okay, yes. Okay. I'm going to give you firstly the abbreviation. It's
Okay.
ILAC, ILAC,
ILAC,
MRA.
MRA. Okay.
Yeah, MRA.
Okay.
Now that stands for International Laboratory
Okay.
Accreditation Cooperation,
Cooperation.
Mutual Recognition Arrangement.
Okay.
You will find it on the webpage, for example, of ISA, the International Organization for Standardization.
Okay. Sir.
Now, that's an arrangement between accreditation bodies throughout the world. Now, in South Africa, the accreditation body is the South African National Accreditation System, SANAS.
Okay.
Now, I'm pretty sure I don't have the list of ILAC members in front of me right now,
Okay, sir.
but I'm pretty sure that Pakistan also has an accreditation body
Yes. Sir.
that is part of the ILAC mutual recognition arrangement. Now, what that means is that the different accreditation bodies throughout the world accept each other's accreditations that they issue to laboratories and other certification bodies.
Okay.
So what that means, if the product is tested in Pakistan to either the ISO or European EN standard by an accredited laboratory that was accredited by the Pakistani Accreditation Authority, then we will accept those test results here in South Africa as proof of compliance with the relevant ISO, international ISO or European EN standard.
Okay. Sir, somebody from the participants have asked a question. If you could share information on where the participant can find or an importer can find more information on the levy structure, for example, commodity type, quantities imported, levy cost per commodity, etc. Where can we find this information?
Okay, the current levies are published on our website, www.nrcs.org.za. There they will find the current levy fees.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Odendal. I'm really grateful. I am really grateful not only for the presentation, but on the short notice, on a very short notice. I believe you must have been working over the weekend. And also, and my apologies for ruining your weekend again, because you must have been busy in preparing this presentation. And thank you so much. The information indeed was very valuable. I learned a lot, and I believe the participant must also have learned a lot. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to ask anything from Mr. Odendal? Floor is open, please. After this, we will conclude the webinar. Tabiso has a question. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Odendaal, for the very detailed presentation. We truly appreciate it. My question is with regards to the application process for PPE through the NRCS. Currently, the application is a bit manual, and in that I'm saying you have to fill in application forms, build up a technical file, and then submit it to an email address. Is there a possibility perhaps of an online system being implemented soon with regards to CMM processes?
Yes. I can't indicate at this stage that it will be soon, but the NRCS is currently working on an online application system. To my knowledge, the NRCS has already acquired the services of a relevant company that will design a system for us, but an electronic application system, it's coming, but it won't be soon. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tabiso, and thank you, Mr. Odendar. We are grateful for the participants today who joined us, who learned from today's session. We are thankful to Pakistan Trade Development Authority of Pakistan, for collaborating with us for this webinar. Indeed, in depth to NRCS, Mr. NRCS for joining us and informing and educating us on this very important topic. Many thanks to Mr. Tabiso for joining us. Your contact will be shared with the participants. A takeaway from this session, of course, everybody's takeaway from the session is different, but mine is a follow-up. We will be arranging a webinar on the fire extinguishers and the fire in that section and the products being manufactured in that bracket. Thank you so much. Thank you to the High Commissioner of Pakistan for joining us from the National Highway. He is on a official visit. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, participants. We will, again, I'm saying we will upload this recorded webinar on the official YouTube channel of the Trade Commission of Pakistan, which is Trade Commission of Pakistan, Johannesburg. Do subscribe us there, and you will be updated on all the webinars that this Trade Commission conducts. Thank you so much, and do send us your feedback. With this, everyone, have a great day, and thank you. Thank you, Ali Sheikh Sahab.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.